Let me ask you a question. Did you ever fail one of your financial goals? You forgot to pay your bills, you spent more money than you were supposed to, you didn't earn enough this month. Did you ever feel frustrated from failing? And then these kinds of thoughts start racing in your head. I can't believe you just bought that. How can you be so wasteful? You're such an idiot. Did you ever make yourself feel terrible just because? Why do you turn into your own worst critic and assume that if you treat yourself like crap, then this would motivate you to be better next time? I start to realize that many people might be feeling these similar emotions with the rise of financial advice online. And if you do, comment below to let others know so they're not alone. Sure, it's exciting to learn about all the brilliant ways to save and make more money and how you can transform your financial life overnight. It's great to be reassured that all it takes to reach financial freedom is consistency. Do this every day, every week, every month, every year. But even if you spend countless hours watching videos, reading, learning about money and investing, there's this one thing that's holding you back and preventing you from reaching your financial goals, and that is your relationship with money. Before I share how you can fix your relationship and improve your financial situation, you need to first understand why you naturally treat yourself so terribly. This inner critic, we'll call it, stems from human nature. Imagine you're sent back to the caveman days. Think about it. Your reactionary system plays a vital role in your survival and feeds into your simple desire to stay safe and alive. The inner critic is a natural extension of your fight or flight response, which tells your body that if you make a mistake or see something scary, your body will shoot adrenaline and cortisol throughout your system so you can either fight or run away. This survival response worked very well for you when you needed to hunt wild animals, because if you saw something lurking in the bushes, you needed to act quickly. You didn't have time to determine if it was a predator or just a wind. If you make a mistake, then you would be seriously injured or killed. But fast forward to the modern century. Despite now being able to order food through your phone, your survival response hasn't really changed. Nowadays, even if you make a relatively small mistake, like not meeting your financial goals for the month, you make yourself feel bad. You become more stressed, anxious, and disconnected, which is some of the worst things you can do when you're striving for financial freedom. I do want to clarify, however, that I'm not saying self-criticism doesn't ever work. That's not true. It works, but only as a slight negative motivator. Because of how harshly you criticize yourself when you fail, you're kind of motivated to escape this type of self-judgment. It's this fear and pressure that builds up every time you spend too much money or you save too little, making you more nervous and anxious, to the point that you start committing this thing called self-handicapping, where you unconsciously sabotage yourself. So on the chance that you do fail, you can avoid feeling like crap by blaming the failure on something else. So instead of you taking the risk and asking for a raise or going to get a better job or even starting your own business, the things that would help you out financially, you avoid all of it because you're nervous and anxious that if you tried, you could fail. So to protect your self-esteem, you don't even bother trying. And then it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle where you constantly never try and you never learn from your mistakes, and eventually you lose the belief that you can ever reach financial freedom. But here's the way to fix all of this. But first, I want to thank our friends at SoFi for sponsoring this video. When I first told SoFi I was making a video about helping you get better at achieving your financial goals, they got excited and wanted to let me know that their new credit card is actually designed to help with doing just that. Because listen, when it comes to personal finance, some of the most important things to do is 1, pay off your debt so you know you don't owe anyone money, 2 is save money, and 3 is invest that money so it can grow over time. And what's really cool about SoFi's new credit card is that it can help with all 3 of these things. Seriously, for all eligible purchases, which is actually pretty comprehensive, like shopping, groceries, gas, you'll actually get 2% unlimited cash back, which you can automatically redeem for stuff like paying down your SoFi debt, savings, or investing, all within their SoFi app. Cool, right? You can think of SoFi as an all-in-one financial platform that, in addition to everything we just talked about, also lets you track your credit score and your purchases, all for free. Oh, and that's not the only thing that's free. SoFi's credit card also doesn't have any annual fees, and when you make 12 monthly accumulate on-time payments, they'll even lower your APR by 1%. All of this is especially important during the holiday season when temptations are all around us and it can be harder than ever to stay on track with your financial goals while buying presents, eating out, and traveling. But with the SoFi card, you can contribute to your financial future by spending what you're already spending. Then after the holidays, you can reap the benefits of redeeming points into invest or crypto accounts all year round. And the absolute best part is that if you sign up with my link below and get approved, you'll get a chance to win $20,000 to $20,000 in reward points. Check it out and apply for the SoFi credit card today. The link is in the description down below. And thanks again to SoFi for sponsoring this portion of the video. Instead of just being a harsh critic to yourself, there's actually something else they can do. Based on scientific research, that'll be more helpful for you in reaching your financial goals. And this thing is called self-compassion. And before you exit this video thinking this is some new age hippie BS and think that self-compassion is basically an excuse to let yourself off the hook, you're wrong. You might think that practicing self-compassion will make you lazy, lose your ambition and competitive edge, but actually, the opposite is true. There is this fascinating study conducted at UC Berkeley that tested the efficacy of self-compassion in students to track how they learned and improved. The students were given a vocabulary test that was designed to be so difficult that they would all fail. And the students, they were split into 3 separate groups, group A, B, and C. And after each group failed the test, their experimenters treated them all very differently. For students in group A, the experimenters focused on boosting the students' self-esteem, where they basically said, don't feel bad about the test. I bet you're all so smart because you all go to Berkeley. On the other hand, for group B, the experimenters didn't say anything to them. So after the students failed, they were probably just, really disappointed and just beating themselves over failing a test. But the biggest difference was with group C, where the experimenters actually taught these students self-compassion. They said things along the lines of, hey, it's okay, everyone fails. It was a really hard test. Just remember to be kind and supportive to yourself. Then at the end of the day, they told each group that they're gonna give everyone another vocabulary test as a second chance. They told them that you guys can study for as long as you want, and then they handed them the study materials. And when all the students came back and retook the test, what the experiment found was that group C, the students who were taught to be self-compassionate about their failures, actually willingly and voluntarily studied for longer and did much better than group A and B. And it's not just one study. Countless studies show that self-compassionate people are more likely to take action and reach their goals, not only in personal finance, but in life, from dieting, smoking, and even exercising. Self-compassion is not about dismissing your failures and not trying anymore. Self-compassion is similar to having your own personal coach or teacher who is firm, holds you to a high standard, but also helps you reach your goals. Before I share with you how I successfully practice self-compassion, I want to tell you that I wasn't always like this. Many of you probably don't know, but I've actually started my entrepreneurial journey all the way since middle school. I've always tinkered with and played with business ideas, from designing and selling clothes in high school to writing ebooks. But no matter how many things that I've started over the decades, none of them really took off. I would pour countless hours into this work. I would spend my free time researching, building up the business, and in the end, it would flop. And keep in mind, this is on top of my regular schoolwork, my real job, and everything else. And this failure happened more times than I can remember. But one thing that never fails to happen after each failure is that the inner critic comes out. The one that says things like, you're not good enough. This is a stupid idea, or nothing will ever work out for you. And the voice got louder and louder each time, to the point that I kept thinking, maybe entrepreneurship isn't actually for me. Maybe I'm not one of the lucky few who can do it. Maybe I should just stop wasting my time. But then, one day, I read this thing online that changed how I perceived failure. Imagine you're on a wagon, right? On your journey to whatever you want. Financial freedom, maybe. And every time you fail, you fall off the wagon. But falling off the wagon is not the problem. The problem is how you respond to it. Do you decide to get back on the wagon and keep going, or just lay there in the mud? When I made this realization, I told myself that no matter how many times I get knocked down, I fail, I screw up, I will always try again. Because even if I failed 9,999 times, all it takes is one success to forget all about the rest of the failures. So that's what I did. I kept getting back on the wagon. I started changing how I treated failure and how it treated me. I started practicing self-compassion strategies that rewired my brain to learn from my mistakes, to take more action, and to keep getting back on the wagon. We all want to reach financial freedom as quickly as possible. We all want to fast forward to the end result. But the reality is, it's going to take years and years of hard work. And to make sure that you don't give up in between those years, self-compassion is one of the few things that'll keep you getting back on the wagon. And before I share the strategies that I used, I truly appreciate if you could turn that like button into a beautiful yellow, and also follow me on Instagram for more tips and strategies to financial freedom. The link is in the description down below. The strategies that I use to be more self-compassionate and improve my relationship with money and failure are largely based off Dr. Kristen Neff, who breaks the concept of self-compassion into 3 key components. Number 1 is self-kindness. Think of it this way. Think about your best friend, your family, people who you love. Imagine if they failed at something. Imagine if they were trying to save money to reach a financial milestone. They worked really hard for months, but then one day they caved and messed up. Now do you go in and start criticizing them? Do you call them a failure and tell them that they'll never make it? Or do you tell them that everything is going to be okay and reassure them it's not the end of the world? I'm betting you do the latter. So why not treat yourself the same way? The second component is this thing called common humanity, which is understanding that everyone makes financial mistakes and that you're not alone in this. Failure is a universal experience that we can all learn and grow from. And 3 is mindfulness. Acknowledge how you're feeling when you experience financial setbacks. Don't ignore it, don't suppress it. Be in the moment and remind yourself that yes, this hurts, but it's a learning experience. And by acknowledging it and understanding where it came from, it should get easier to get through. Take these components and work towards being more self-compassionate. Understand what caused the setback, acknowledge how it made you feel, and understand that you're not alone in feeling this way. Then, learn what caused the failure and commit to improving and avoiding this in the future. 2 other things that I discovered that became really helpful is 1, putting things into perspective. Zoom out from this specific painful moment that you're experiencing and look at all the other times that you were successful with anything. Sure, you faced a setback today, but look at all the success you had in the past. Oftentimes we tend to forget all the little wins that we had and we only focus on the big negatives. Understand that this is just a moment, a small dot in your lifetime. The feelings that you have at this moment are fleeting and they'll disappear, and others will soon take their place. And lastly, celebrate. I think it's really important to celebrate these small wins that you have, to create these little moments in there to help you remember and set positive reinforcements. And when you do, these little dots would feel more pronounced and you will recognize them easier. Most of you, I'm sure, when your friends and family are down, you let them know that you believe in them. You're there to support them and cheer them up. But for whatever reason, you do the complete opposite with yourself. Study after study shows that self-criticism doesn't create an environment that fosters high performance and improvement. It creates fear, self-handicap, and makes it harder to improve what you need to improve on. Self-compassion, on the other hand, helps you get serious about your growth and gets you closer to your goals. But it doesn't end there. You also need to turn your self-compassion into action. When it comes to personal finance, you might be motivated to succeed and reach it, but there's something else that's holding you back. And this video will deep dive into how you are psychologically programmed from birth to be poor, and it's not your fault. But once you watch this next video, it's gonna be up to you to evaluate your situation and decide if you want to make the change or not.